All right, and before we get into our lead topic, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors over at Firecracker Farm, firecracker.farm, promo code BASED, B-A-S-E-D, like the title of the show will save you 10% off your order at the checkout. That's firecracker.farm, not .com, .org, or .net. Can you scroll over so I can see my mic volume there? With the promo code BASED, B-A-S-E-D, to save 10% off your order at the checkout, they get this great product called Hot Salt. We put it on everything over here. It's a combination of Mediterranean sea salt, scorpion pepper, ghost pepper, and Carolina Reaper. It goes great on everything. You want to have it. Summertime's coming up. You're going to be chilling in the backyard, by the pool, on the beach, whatever. Goes great on some margaritas, on some chicken or burgers on the grill, steak. I love it. Firecracker.farm, promo code BASED, B-A-S-E-D. Like the title of the show, save you 10% off your order at the checkout. Best part, it's made right here in the US of A, so you don't got to worry about none of the tariffs. You don't have to worry about these other countries fucking with our food or tracking your transactions. None of that. Support these American-made brands that support this show. One more time, it's firecracker.farm, not .com, not .org, not .net, not .gov, not .tv, .farm, F-A-R-M, with the promo code BASED, B-A-S-E-D, like the title of the show, to save 10% off your order at the checkout. I just realized we didn't change the lead topic, lower third, but that's fine. We're going to roll with it anyway, because I guess it kind of rolls into what we're talking about. It's not too irrelevant, so we'll keep it there. So Jake Tapper, the CNN anchor, former CNN anchor, I don't keep up with the career choices of Mr. Tapper, but Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson released a book titled Original Sin last week, which we kind of touched on. And it talks about Joe Biden's cognitive decline and the large-scale cover-up that went into selling the lie to the American people. Well, I shouldn't say selling the lie, because selling the lie implies that a lot of people bought it, when I don't think anybody really bought it. I think even the most head-in-the-sand Democrats, while they're not willing to admit that they knew Biden was in cognitive decline, they know deep down that that guy was not running the show. They knew it, maybe not from day one, but by, say, day 101, it was pretty clear that Biden didn't know where the fuck he was. Right? Like, that guy flew over the cuckoo's nest, right? So Jake Tapper, he's a left-wing anchor from CNN, decided that he was going to publish this book 4 months after Biden left office. I mean, what a bold move, Mia. What a bold move. This guy, he did all this research and just got all of this in a couple of months, sent it off to the publisher. They looked at it, edited it, sent it back. He made the final revisions. They looked at it one more time. Then they okayed it. So he gathered all this information about Biden in like a month and a half. He just figured it out. How bold of him to release a book about the former president when he's no longer in power. I mean, what a move by Jake Tapper. Well, that took some balls, Jake. Good job, man. You really put yourself out there on that one. It's not like you could have done it a couple years ago when the fate of the world was hanging and, you know, it looked like we were about to go to war with Russia and China at the same time, and the emperor had no clothes. The guy at the wheel wasn't drunk. He didn't even know the car was turned on. You could have done it back then, but you decided to wait until not just after all that went down, but after the election. So it had little to no impact on American politics. You did it the same year that Donald Trump took office, in an off year for elections, so it won't have an effect on the midterm. But you're really telling us that you're trying to stick it to the Democrats. Yeah, I'm sure. No, what this is Jake Tapper sees the writing on the wall. He's unlike a lot of these other journalists. Like, I was going to ask Mia, have you ever been at a company that was clearly failing and it was only a matter of time until mass layoffs were coming? But you would know. Like, if you guys ever been in a company that was like clearly gonna fail, it was clear that this company's gonna fail. There's two types of people that are working at that company. Maybe they got bought, maybe sales are way down, maybe they're cutting back on everything. But there's two types of people at that company when the writing is on the wall. There's the people that see it for what it is and they start making arrangements. They don't just up and quit, but they start looking for another job. And then there's the people that stick their heads in the sand and go, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to sit here, just do my minuscule role and pretend that nothing bad is happening. And when they fire me, I guess I'll cross that bridge when I get there. So to Jake Tapper's credit, he sees the writing on the wall that the rest of us saw after the 2024 presidential election, which is that the dinosaur media's influence over the American public is not what it once was. And he's trying to make other arrangements so he can be relevant outside of that medium. I'm not saying CNN and Fox and MSNBC are going to go away. They're not. That's stupid. When people say that, they're oversimplifying the issue. They won't have the influence they once had. They won't have the money, and they won't have a lot of the talent they once had. But they're not going to go away. But he sees that. And Jake Tapper, he's made enough money. He's been in this business long enough. He should have a little bit saved up. So while money's nice, it's not the number one issue for him. Jake Tapper is now peddling an influence. Where can I get the most influence and connections that I possibly can? So he sees the writing on the wall at CNN. He knows that his grift, at least to its current degree, is coming to a close. And he's going to see if he can grift in alternative media. He's gone on the podcast circuit. He's done Piers Morgan. He's done everything ever since this book came out. Now, if you ask him, here's what he had to say about the money aspect of the book here.
In terms of the left, it's a money grab. I mean, that's not the case. It's not. This is. I don't want to get into where my money comes from, but I'm. CNN is my main job, and that's where my main source of income by far. Very few people write books to make money. You write a book because you want to say something. You want to have a legacy. You want to uncover something. You have a message you want to get out there. I don't think people write books about Joe Biden to make money. We are gratified that people are buying this book.
That's a good point.
But I don't think. The idea that I would do this for money is.
He wrote a book to uncover something. He uncovered something that all of us had been shouting from the hilltop for the last 4 years while he put his hands over his ears, him and everybody else in his industry. He wrote it to uncover something we didn't know. Next week, Jake Tapper is going to write a book about. He just found out that America has 50 states. Jake Tapper, after his brilliant sequel about the 50 states in America, he's going to write a book called "I Just Learned That Lizzo's Fat." Oh, she's not fat anymore, is she? She used to be fat. Jake Tapper. Brilliant journalism by Jake Tapper. This guy's an award. I mean, come on. So he sees the writing on the wall is over at CNN, and he wrote this book. And what he did was he pissed everybody off. And normally, when you piss both sides of the aisle off, that's a good thing. We usually piss both sides of the aisle off every single episode on this show. I know. I see the comments in the live chats. I see them. I know we pissed you guys off. And that's okay. That's what we strive to do. But the difference is those are my actual views. Now, Jake Tapper will try to portray himself as some type of modern media trailblazer who's riled up, ruffled feathers on both sides of the aisle. But that's not what it is. He hasn't ruffled feathers on both sides of the aisle by speaking truth to power. At least not any truth that people didn't already know, or at least for the last couple years. He's just tried to scam both sides, and neither of them are buying it. The people he made a career out of scamming and lying to on the left have finally seen him for the fraud he is. So now he's trying to turn to the right and go, hey, guys, what you see me? I don't like Biden. I'm one of those liberals that, I'm critical of my own party. Like the Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, Lindy Lee, people, Anna Kasparian, people like that. Why don't you let me over? And conservatives are like, fuck you, dude. You didn't say anything we didn't know. If you wanted to come out and actually criticize the Democrat Party, we might be willing to hear you out. But you're saying, you knew this, and your book documents all of the instances that made it obvious in the public eye that Biden had lost his fucking mind. And you got nothing to say on that. Now, like I said, he's tried to pander to both sides here. So here's a liberal, what they had to say. It was a tweet. This is from Brooklyn Dad on Twitter. This is how much the left is a fan of Jake Tapper. It says, good morning and happy Wednesday to everyone who agrees that Jake Tapper is a piece of shit hack. Nobody was hiding President Biden's age because jackasses like Tapper ignored Biden's wins and focused on his age. He helped enable Trump's return. Well, that's a fucking lie, Brooklyn Dad. That's a disingenuous take. Jake Tapper was the host of the first presidential debate that argued back and forth with Donald Trump. Like, the debate at one point became Trump Tapper. So to claim that Jake Tapper was fixing the game for Trump all along is bullshit. Jake Tapper, if anything, helped Biden by outright ignoring all of the obvious truths that he acknowledges in this very book. Now, here he was when confronted by Laura Loomer, a conservative influencer, out in the hallway of a press briefing. Go ahead.
Have some courage for once. Apologize for all of your fake news at CNN that has led to this attempted assassination of President Trump, Jake. Shameful behavior from CNN. You guys have blood on your hands. You have blood on your hands, Jake. When are you going to apologize to the American people for lying about President Trump for years? When are you going to call out Joe Biden for saying that it's time to put President Trump in a bullseye? Come on, you're always talking so much shit.
Yeah, so both sides are big fans of Jake right now. Jake's politically homeless, and not in a good way, not in like a Bridget Fetisi way, where it feels like it's coming from a legitimate perspective, where, hey, these are just my opinions on the issues, and both parties want nothing to do with me because I lean too far to the other side on certain topics. Not like that. Just in a, I'm a sleazy scumbag, and everyone can smell the shit on me from a mile away, so they want nothing to do with me kind of way. So this is majorly backfired for him. He thought he was going to paint himself as some type of maverick in media. And while, yeah, the book's probably going to sell pretty well because people are curious and it's a hot topic and it's got him on the podcast and late night show circuit right now, it's not going to last. I think in the long run, this is going to be worse for his career because the left now thinks you're a sellout. The left wants nothing to do with you. Republicans see you as a spineless hack because there's no way an intelligent person who is tuned in to the ins and outs of what's going on in the American political sphere took that long to realize that Biden was senile. There's no way. You did not ascend to where you are in your job without at least having a little bit of an inkling that something was off about Biden. So they see you as a spineless hack because you waited until after he left the White House to do it. By the way, the Biden family coming out and saying the day before this book dropped, hey, by the way, he's got cancer, was like the trifecta. So Tapper he's getting used from all three holes right now, right? The asshole, the mouth, and the vajayjay. They're all in on Tapper. Just full on prison style on Jake Tapper, because it wouldn't be That's Based with Caleb Salvatore if we didn't get a little vulgar on here from time to time. That's what separates us from these stick in the mud conservative hacks that you listen to. See, you can get invigorating, colorful conservative commentary without going to a clown like Andrew Tate. Okay? And we'll talk about those guys a little bit later on in the show. Now, Jake Tapper had a comment to make about a podcast he was on here. Go ahead and check this out. About some people brought his podcast he went on. Some people brought his son into it. Check this out here.
I went on a left-leaning podcast that shall remain nameless, and we were talking about my kids because I think they were both people without kids. And they asked me about my son, and I said he was, he's a football player and he wants to be a policeman. And their joke was about my 15-year-old son, oh, how does he feel about minorities? Like the idea that he wants to be a policeman, therefore he's racist, my son. And that was the big laugh. And then I got dragged in the comments and all that stuff. And I thought to myself, this is why you fuckers are losing elections.
100%.
Like my football playing son, who has
Tackles
no
minorities a little
political
harder.
views. He's 15. He thinks about World War II and gaming and playing linebacker. That's his world. you're deciding he's a racist because he wants to be a cop. And why does he want to be a cop? He wants to be a cop because he wants to help people, and he thinks that's the best way he can help people. And that's how the Democratic Party talks to men, not just white men, but men. And I get the idea that they thought Tim Walz could what's the term he used, code switch or something. He thought that he could translate the Democratic Party values because he hunts and fishes and owns a gun and was in the army and drinks a beer. I mean, at least there was an attempt, but I find it just insane.
Oh, he's right about old Tampon Tim, Coach Sandusky there. I'll give him that much credit where it's due. But Jakey Poo, don't you realize that type of rhetoric, that's not new? That came from the Democrat Party. We've heard that, the language about police officers and young men, for the last 4 years. Now, you went on a podcast that was a little bit edgier. It was a joke. I think you're overreacting to it a little bit. When people get turned off by distasteful comments coming from the left, it's not necessarily people making jokes. It's people that say things like that in a serious manner. Regardless, that's splitting hairs there. We're getting into semantics. But let's not act like you and your ilk at CNN didn't perpetuate that with your coverage of the quote-unquote mostly peaceful protests where you had explosions in the background while that was down on the lower third on your broadcast. Let's not act like you didn't play a role in normalizing that language and holding water for it and running cover for it. Because you did, Jakey Poo. So again, the guy does not have a genuine bone in his body. He doesn't. He's incapable. I don't think Jake Tapper knows who the real Jake Tapper is. This is the guy, for those of you accusing him of being pro-Trump, this is the guy who basically gave legs to the fake Russiagate and, Steele dossier story. The Trump-Russia collusion allegation, saying that him and Russia colluded to fix the 2016 election. This is the guy who basically gave legs to this story. He framed the early reports as if they were corroborated, was the word he used, although the details were later discredited or proven to be unverifiable. So, what does this do? What does this do? What good does this book do now? It comes from a guy who's a documented hack. He has no spine and allegiance to power and the almighty dollar. I don't think he has any principles or values. I think he wants whatever is going to help him peddle influence. So Republicans are just going to say, I told you so. Liberals will put their heads in the sand and cover their ears and go, la, 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 I can't hear you. And nothing gets changed. Him releasing this now after covering this up for years is like when you're seeing a football game or a basketball game or whatever, where the officials have probably got money on one of the other teams and it's just so blatantly fixed. And, one team's shot 52 free throws and the other shot 6. And then the other, the team that's getting all the calls is up by 38 points with a minute left. And all of a sudden the refs call 2 or 3 fouls real quick just to even. So, on the stat sheet, it looks like the game was called a little bit more closely than it actually was. That's what they're doing right here. That's all this is. We got one more video from Jake on another political show. Let's check out what he had to say here. This is an award-winning journalist, CNN news anchor with some real breakthrough shit here.
And I think that we need to be skeptical of everything that we are told by people in power. And I mean, that obviously should be the mantra of being a journalist to begin with. If your mother tells you she loves you, get a second source. Right. But we just need to remember that. Politicians lie. White Houses lie. Power is an aphrodisiac. And we just need to all remember that and not take at face value anything that we're told.
This guy's been in the political journalism game for decades. And he just came through with that breakthrough. Politicians lie. I mean, I think the guy deserves a Pulitzer Prize. Mia, what do you think? That is groundbreaking journalism.
It definitely is. Never thought about that before.
Politicians lie. He really just painted it in a perspective that I'd never even considered up until now. I love he just couldn't believe, when you listen to this guy talk about it, he just couldn't believe that journalists and the press wouldn't dig deeper into Biden's mental state over the last 4 years. Hey, retard, you were the press. You were the lead guy on CNN. What do you mean nobody dug deeper into it? That was your fucking job. We were all screaming, there's something wrong with this guy. There's something wrong with this guy. And you just wanted to talk about the 18th COVID variant this month. You didn't care. Oh, can you believe what Putin did? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's great. Putin's an asshole. But, the president just shook hands with nobody. The president just called out a dead woman and said hello at a service that was honoring her because he forgot that she was dead at her memorial service. But yeah, you better go talk about some plane crash in the Amazon. That's what we need to hear about right now. This is a guy who refused to platform Trump administration officials on his show, intentionally did not give his audience the other side's perspective by he wasn't in the situation I was in, that I'm in right now, where people from the other side don't want to come and talk on the show, and I can only get an echo chamber. It's frustrating. I'm working on it. I know. He outright refused to platform people who eagerly wanted to come on his show and get their side of the argument out to his listeners and his viewers. And he said he wouldn't bring them on because they, quote, lie the way most people breathe, end quote. Well, Jake, by releasing this book now when you did, because we know you're not a stupid person, you have more or less committed a lie of omission by refusing to tell people over the last 4 years that the emperor had no clothes. That's on you. Every accusation with these people is a confession. And I'll end this segment with this quote from Mr. Tapper himself. When describing the Trump administration in his first term, after Donald Trump had one of his many spouts with a member of the press, insulting them, calling them fake news, the enemy of the people, whatever you want to call it, Jake Tapper said, and I quote, "This is how authoritarian regimes behave. They delegitimize the press," end quote. Well, Jake, I hate to break it to you, but the Trump administration, or any politician in the country for that matter, doesn't need to delegitimize the press because you guys have done a fantastic job at delegitimizing yourselves. That's been our lead topic. Stay tuned. We've got a great store brand TMZ segment coming up next.